Hi there, welcome. Welcome to Homekeepers. How wonderful to be here with you today. Just come right on in. Before I came down from my office a while ago, I was looking through some emails, and I just thank you for the sweet, sweet things you sent to us. And there were prayer requests and all. I did pray for them, and it's just nice to have that kind of a contact. Email's wonderful. I don't know who in the world invented it, but it sure saves us a lot of time, doesn't it? So thank you. Thank you for those. Thank you for your letters. All of those things are a wonderful encouragement to us. I have a return guest today, Niki Rowe, and her story was absolutely hair-raising. When she was on before and we just ran out of time, and it was like leaving the audience hanging. So I have not aired that program yet, or I did air it just before this one so that you would see the two in sequence. And it's something for you to be informed about going on right around your own life. It could very well be. And Niki was caught up in human trafficking, and it's just beyond the comprehension for a church girl like me. I grew up in church, and the world was pretty wonderful. And to the depths that she was taken, and now to the heights of ministry, it proves the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. And so I hope you saw the first program, and I'm glad that she's back today. I'm going to join Stephanie. We're going to make, get this, chocolate caramel turkey legs, and I'm not going to try to explain them to you now. We will do it over in the kitchen with some show and tell, okay? Now, I would like to invite you to support this program. You can write to us, or you can use the 800 number if you like to use a credit card to do your banking like Stephanie does. And she does everything online, but we've got it for you both ways. And so that will be, kind of covers all the bases. If you use your credit card or your bank card, it's 1-800-229-0059, or just write to me at Homekeepers, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, and we will get it right out to you. And now we're going to kind of explain to you what a caramel chocolate turkey leg is. I was saying these certainly aren't hors d'oeuvres. Usually they're treats.
They're just treats for kids, sure, or adults.
All right, you have three ingredients.
Three ingredients. We have the braided twists. You got the honey wheat ones. We have some chocolate chips that were melted. And then we have the caramels. Okay, so you're just going to put these two caramels in for 12 seconds. I found on our microwave that's the exact amount of time you need. So we had already microwaved the chocolate chips, and we got that nice and smooth.
Yeah, and we try to remember that everybody's microwave is a little bit different.
Yes, so, you know, start maybe with 10 seconds, because you don't want it to get too, if it gets too soft, running, you can't do it.
Which
there
is
you go.
When I first looked at it, I didn't realize that you do keep them relatively firm.
Yeah, yeah, so super simple. You take these caramels, look, they're nice and pliable now. You put it on each side of the pretzel stick.
You do such a good job, though.
And you just form it.
If I did it, it would probably look like a frog leg.
No, I think you could
something
do
like
it.
that.
This was kind of therapeutic this morning, I'll tell you. It was just like molding clay. It was kind of.
I call it.
I couldn't. This is probably the best.
Silly putty.
Yes, this is probably the only thing I could mold though. Like I couldn't like take clay and make something like Rick Wolf could. He could make something fabulous.
Yeah.
So you just mold it down the pretzel so it looks like you have a little turkey leg at the top, and then you just take your chocolate and you smother it.
I think you should do another one.
Yes,
so I'm
please.
going to go ahead.
Do 11 seconds on that one, please.
Okay.
And then you let it drip off. And now what I said earlier was what would be so cute is if you used butterscotch.
Yeah.
And you melted it. I don't know how well butterscotch melts. Probably pretty good though. And then did that. Then it would be the color of turkey.
Be more of a turkey leg.
Yeah.
Color, a turkey that's been roasted.
Yeah. But Susan said this could be the dark meat of the turkey.
Well,
so see how fast that, I mean, it's just so fast. Now, this would be so much fun for kids to do.
Yeah.
just get the kids in the kitchen. The caramel's not hot, so it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't hurt them. They just mold it.
And you put it on parchment and
put it in the
fridge for a little bit.
Super easy. And then Brooke's going to come up and taste it. Because you don't want to, and neither we have reasons, okay?
We have reasons.
So you go.
Especially if you're going to do an interview.
Yeah,
you don't want caramel falling off your teeth.
So delicious, right? Take a bite of the pretzel. Take a big bite. Go. Get it. Get it, sister. Get it.
You forget this caramel. It takes you a little while to chew it up.
She doesn't have to do anything except go behind the camera.
Okay.
It's good, right?
You give us.
So you have because you have the salt of the pretzel too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brooke.
So, Brooke, on a scale from 1 to 10, what do you give it? 10.
An 8?
No.
A 10.
Yeah.
So it's rounded, it's molded, and chocolate.
I'd like to meet the person who
dreamed
this up.
Really? There are such an.
I would say you have too much time on your hands.
No,
probably.
stop. They're just creative.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
We have to have creative people, or we wouldn't have stuff like this.
And we like creative things around here. If you got good ideas, send them to us.
Yes, I see stuff like this, and I'm like, why didn't I think of? Well, I would have never thought of this, but there are other things that I would have thought of.
If I lived 10 lifetimes, I wouldn't have come up with this.
No, for
Not
sure.
at all. So this is what they look like, and lots of fun. And
I'm sorry, I moved the plate.
And I am dedicated to dark chocolate. If you got the milk chocolate, it'd be a little bit different color. But
here they are. Find them with the camera. No.
Are you going to take those upstairs?
No, the crew can have these.
Oh, okay.
They
We'll
look like
give
they
them to
would
the
like
crew.
them.
All right, that's our recipe for today. And if you would like to have it,
Chocolate caramel turkey legs.
I would say get your kids together.
Grandkids.
Yeah,
it would be fun.
And do this, especially, you know, at Thanksgiving time and all. It's just a fun thing to do. And I know that you go to Tiffany's Nook and Cranny thing once in a while. Wanda went with you once, and it's like you girls have more fun than anybody should
Stuff
have.
like this is a lot of, it's a blast.
There's something about it when you work together and you're not on the schedule that we all keep.
Yes.
Yeah. And fellowship. There's a lot of fellowship with it.
Yeah.
So if you would like to have this, what do we call it?
Chocolate caramel turkey legs.
Chocolate caramel turkey legs. Email us or write to us. Send us an envelope with your name and your stamp on it. We'll be glad to get it out to you. And let us know if you have some fun with this. I would be very curious
Take pictures.
to know that. Yeah. All right, stay with me. Glad Niki Cross is back again because I love good testimonies. There's nothing like a great testimony, and her life is one. Stay with us. Be right back.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, just write to the address on your screen, or you can email your request to arthelene@rippy.org.
All right, I'm very glad to welcome Niki back to us because her life could happen to someone you know, someone in your family. She was raised in a Christian home, a believer's home. I believe you said you were raised in a church home, but not one that was Christ-centered, and there's a difference.
Well, the way that I worded it in the book is I was raised in church, but not in Christ.
Yeah.
My father was a very devout Christian, but my mother, she waxed off and on. And as we see believers do so often, they think that just showing up to church is enough. And we know that it's much more than that.
Niki is an author and also founder of Star Ministry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we'll put her website up. You can get her book through that website, and also it's a good idea to write it down because you might need it someday, that's for sure. Can we recap your story quickly? What was it that put kind of a seed of rebellion? There was a family member who molested you or something? Yes. And that sends a kid on a downward spiral.
Yeah, at the age of 9, I was molested, and because I had been taught that bad things don't happen to good girls, I, of course, didn't come forward. I didn't tell. And so many children keep those things private, either because they're ashamed or because the perpetrator has told them, you won't be loved, you'll get in trouble, it'll be your fault. So I kept very quiet. Obviously, when you hurt that way, you look for ways to numb that pain, and mine was getting involved with kids that were drinking and doing drugs, as we see so many doing today. You know, Arthelene, I just want to reiterate that the enemy doesn't have new tricks. He's just changed the window dressing from time to time. And,
really?
you know, evil
right.
is the same evil that involved my life. And so the children that are going through this today, it was the same thing I was going through. We just didn't talk about it back then.
Right, and the perpetrators are very uniform in that they groom their object.
They're very savvy.
And they'll say, we'll kill your parents, or,
Yes.
or something which keeps the secret inside. And of course, this affected, did you finish school? Because it affected your grades, I know. And
I did later. I did later, but I dropped out of school, ran away from home, and that was when I met the really bad guy. You know, in the beginning, they tell you everything you want to hear because you're just so starved for validation. My thing was always music, and I indeed did later go on to do things professionally musically, but he used that as the tool to draw me in. So his thing was, if you come with me to Ohio to spend Thanksgiving, my family's rich, we can help you get an album, we'll record for you, you'll be famous in no time.
Yeah, and giving you this story, and then what was kind of surprised me was how quickly he turned into Satan. There wasn't anything really gradual about it.
Yeah.
And you ended up isolated, almost not in prison with bars, but locked up in a house, and you couldn't get out. And how long was that?
It was for almost a year, and you say not with bars, but I sit here today with scars on my right ankle where I was chained to the floor. I mean, literally like an animal.
I keep wondering, except for the mercy of God, which is huge, but how you kept your sanity.
You know, there were many years after that, and I'm so glad you touched on that. People think that once a victim is rescued, that everything is immediately wonderful. The violins begin to play, and everything's, you know, a Hallmark movie. It's anything but. You go through so much trauma and shame and guilt and anger, and I literally, it was like watching the death of someone and going through the phases. But it was the blood of Jesus Christ that set me free.
You. Yeah, it kept you. And you escaped, but someone helped you.
I did. I had two very wonderful people that stepped in, didn't know me, didn't owe me anything, but from the goodness of their heart, they knew that this was wrong. I had the young lady, we had a safe house in Pinellas County. Sadly, we no longer have that. We didn't have enough funding to keep it going. And I just can't speak to that enough, that there are not enough safe houses. I get calls every day. We have a girl, where can we put her? You know, and I'm having to send girls out of state now because there's nothing here in Pinellas County.
Yeah, because you work with law enforcement on a regular basis.
Quite often. I work very closely with Homeland Security, FBI, our local law enforcement, and they are doing the best job they can. But we've got to do something about this demand situation. We've got to educate people. You know, there's a statistic, I think it's like 97% of pastors have admitted that they at some point in their life have had pornography in their life. So we have to really speak to the demand.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and another issue, there's a lot of organizations that are rising up that are becoming anti-trafficking. We have to be careful with that because I am seeing so many women and boys that are being exploited by these organizations that are trying to raise money but care very little about the ongoing care of the survivor.
Yeah, and the whole picture. I have a lady on here who has a ministry to girls that perform in the clubs. And there's a real similarity there. And that they are single moms, they need the money, and they want to finish college or something, which blows my mind. Your situation, though, if I remember right, you were sold. You never
Yes.
saw any of the money.
I never saw the money.
These
In
girls
fact,
make money, but you never saw any of the money.
You know, the irony of the whole entire thing was I never knew that I was sold until the night he was going to kill me, because he then began to talk about, you've cost me too much money because they don't want to pay as much for you because you don't cooperate. Because I was constantly fighting to try to get away.
There was something very feisty about you.
That country girl.
Yeah, yeah. All right, and you were dramatically rescued. There was a car outside, and if I remember right, and
Yes,
drove off.
There was a young man who himself was trafficked, but he was addicted to drugs, and they used that for him to be the minion, to do everything they asked him to do, including feed us,
get his drugs.
etc. And one day he said to me, "You don't belong here." And by this time, I didn't trust anyone. I didn't believe anything he said. So a couple of nights later, he said, you know, if we dress her up really nice and take her to downtown Akron, because they had taken me across state lines to Ohio, he said, I believe we could get quite a bit of money. What I didn't know was that he had set up this couple of people, Buster and Christy, who ended up taking care of me and sheltering me until I could get back home safely.
Now, did you go home?
I did come back home.
And what did you tell your parents? I mean, if I heard somebody done that to my girl, I'd probably be in jail today.
Well, that's just the thing. You know, my daddy was, you know, I wrote the book like Daddy used to say. He was my hero. And I said very little. You know, I shared some things with them, but it would be probably 20 years before I could tell the whole story. I kept things watered down because I just had so much shame.
What were they doing while you were gone? Were they looking for you?
They were looking for me. They were looking for me. They had a good friend who was with the Firearms and Tobacco Force. And my mother, again, bless her, she was the type, what are the neighbors going to think? And so she wanted to keep it very low key.
And you wouldn't have been like a runaway child. Were you 18?
No, I was 15 years old. So back then we ended up on milk cartons,
Somebody
not the
ought
internet.
to be in jail, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to get to how do you rebuild a life like this? You don't just lay hands on them and say, God loves you.
No.
You have been dismantled as a person.
Everything that you know about life changes. So many times I hear these young women say to me, a lot of them will call me mama. A lot of them will say, Mama, I just want to be normal. And I say to them, sweetheart, you're never going to be normal. Normal's the setting on your dryer. But what you can be is healthy. And you will never be the person you were before, but that's not a bad thing, because the person you were before was vulnerable. God can give you the strength to be able to have that discernment to see when the enemy is trying to pull those tricks and snares again. Years, it takes years. Even after I was born again, I would sit in church and I would watch people shake their heads and smile, and I would think, what's wrong with me? Why don't I feel like this? The sad thing is that we all wear masks, and I decided that when I was going to do this, I was going to do it transparently. I was going to let people know that I had failed, bailed, run off the rails over the years, and I'm still trying to get it right.
Well, God doesn't give us amnesia. It would be nice.
That's right.
It could be nice if you could forget all of that. But also on the other side of the page, you don't have to dwell on it.
No, I will not live in the city of regret. You know, Joel 2:25 tells us that he will restore what the locusts have eaten. We won't forget the things that's happened to us, but the years that we have can be sweeter than the ones before. You
Absolutely,
know,
yes.
I'm not going to live in that city of regret and dwell.
I do think that you need Jesus to overcome what you went through. Otherwise, I believe totally you have to medicate And you'll do it with drugs or alcohol, or you're going to get a relationship with the Lord that'll make you whole.
Well, and I did all of those. I was with abusive relationships. I was addicted to prescription drugs. I got into drinking, you know, anything to numb it. And as I've said many times before, if you name a letter in the alphabet, I either saw a doctor or took a prescription that started with it, but it was the J, Jesus Christ. And as you said, it was not an overnight process. You know, I am still walking towards that healing. But that's okay because I'm going forward. You know, here's the beautiful thing about the way God created us. He put eyes in the front of our head for a reason. To look forward, not to look back.
Not in the back. Okay, now you have this ministry, and as we've tried to get dates for you to come out, you say, well, I can't, I have a client, How do these clients find you? And then where do you begin when this broken person comes and sits at your desk?
Well, many times they come to me through referrals, whether it be law enforcement, family members. Sometimes they just find me from cards that are in doctor's offices. My cards are everywhere. But the one thing that I really wanted to stress when you were talking about you can't just hit them over the head with the Bible. Many times people have asked me, you know, you're a faith-based ministry. How do you let them know about Jesus? Well, I have to first be Jesus. They have had someone with authority over them, telling them what to do, what they can do, what they must do. I'm not going to come in and say, now here's this guy named Jesus, and he's telling you got to do this, 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 this. But when they see me walk out the love of Jesus, and then I say, oh, by the way, this is not my character, but this is the character of the one that lives in my heart, then they want what I've got. Because it's like, Miss Niki, you went through this, but you don't seem to be affected the way we are. It's time, it's healing, but most of all, it's Jesus.
Absolutely. That's the top line and the bottom line.
Absolutely.
The girls who come to you are not necessarily, or maybe seldom, from the ghetto. They're usually rather well educated.
You know, last year, more of the women that I worked with were, ironically, doctors' daughters. I had one judge's daughter. We have this false sense of it's the ones across the track. The at-risk kids certainly have a big role. They're very vulnerable. But you know, if you think your child's sitting in church every Sunday and they're going to youth group and you don't have to worry about it, you have got a target on your child's back, and you need to get educated and realize, find out what that child is looking at on the internet. Look at their phone, look at the apps, because there's a lot of apps that have apps behind the apps. We just prosecuted a guy that he got 10 years because there was a sting set up. He thought he was having a conversation to buy a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Well, the judge made an example and gave him 10 years. One of my clients, bless her heart, she was fractured in so many pieces when she came to me, Arthelene. And I was so happy about 3 weeks ago to sit in court with her and watch the man that did this to her get a life sentence.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Did that help her?
It did, and it empowered her.
I would think so. If you've just joined us and our time is running out so quickly, I'm talking to Niki Cross from Star Ministry, and that address or the website's been on the screen for most of this interview. I hope you've taken note of it. It wouldn't hurt to just write it down. Pastors, church leaders, youth leaders, they should have this as a resource, because we could be rubbing shoulders with women in human trafficking and not know it, because do they somehow get attached to their captor?
Very much so. There's a thing called Stockholm Syndrome.
Right.
And they begin to feel mercy. Ironically, the young lady whose perpetrator got life sentence, the very next day she called me and said, I'm feeling so bad because the things that may happen to him in prison. And I had to turn it around, put the spin on it, and say, sweetheart, you may have saved his life because someone would have killed him on the street. And get this, there's ministries that go in prison. What if you're the reason he found Jesus.
Oh yeah, I've had them on here. That's one of the great things in America. Some of the prison ministries, they're so effective, and they don't get any publicity, except what maybe Christian television will give to them.
You know, God will do what he has to do to get you still, even if it's putting you in a 10 by 10.
Oh yeah. Well, was there a moment in your life that you really took a deep breath and said, I'm okay,
Yes.
I'm whole?
Yes, there actually was that moment. Ironically, it was a 2 o'clock in the morning situation. I'm sitting, it was the night that I asked Jesus into my heart. And I'm sitting there by myself. I had watched this interview on TBN, a Christian network, about a guy that had been abused as a child. He went on to do the Broadway version of Jesus Christ Superstar, but never found joy until he found Jesus. And I'm sitting there in the dark, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't have to be stuck. I don't have to
That's
be
so
this
true.
person.
Listen, folks, listen.
I don't have to be stuck. Being stuck is a choice. You know, I don't have to feel happy, but I can choose joy. I can decide that my past is not my future. You know, God brought me to this earth not for me to make a mark, but to be the instrument to make his mark.
And he knew it.
Yes. Yes,
knew
and we all have been brought to this earth to make his mark.
Because what a testimony to go through this, what this lady's gone through, to be sold as a person, to be chained to a bed, to be in really a prison for over a year, things that could drive you insane. And yet there was that moment, because of Jesus, that she knew she was whole, she was complete. And that's why I've said for many, many, many years, there's nothing in the world like a good testimony. And I love bringing them to you. Maybe you have a child who's caught up in this kind of demonic activity, because it's very widespread. It's not really isolated at all. But there's hope. And as I said before, I hope you do have the website, because no matter where you are, this lady can put you in touch with somebody who can help you. So I want to thank you again for coming and for sharing your story. And most of all, praise Jesus that he's brought you through, and you're helping others. And thanks for all your help too, friends. Please join me next time, remembering no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.